It's one of Stephen King's seminal works. It's haunted generations since the 80s. First as a book, then a miniseries, and in 2017, a movie. So what is it? What movie am I talking about? It! Pennywise the Dancing Clown is one of horror's most iconic villains, and the face of evil clowns. It's important to specify because they aren't all evil. I am actually friends with a clown, and he's not. Well, I'm pretty sure he's not evil. How do you test for something like that? With 1986's novel It, Stephen King definitely increased the cultural reach of the evil clown trope and provided the perfect figurehead, but he didn't invent it. In fact, he chose the clown image because he recognized kids seem to be afraid of them already. That fear of clowns is something that brewed or festered over the course of centuries. In terms of why that happened, I like the theory that as clowns became more exaggerated and cartoonish, to the point where they had almost no grounded human characteristics, it naturally raised the question, what are they hiding? Which opens the door to people with dark imaginations like Stephen King to fill in the blanks. I already faced this clown once before when I saw the miniseries as a kid in the 90s. Now he's back, and shapeshifter that he is, he looks like Bill Skarsgård instead of Tim Curry. I guess once again, I'm gonna have to kill this clown. October 1988, Derry, Maine. A rainy day. The perfect day to play with a paper boat. At least Bill says so, and his older brother's words are enough for Georgie. Now, Bill would join him outside if he weren't sick. Yeah, totally, I'd love to go outside with you and toss glorified litter into a puddle. I'm just... I'm sick. Yeah, I don't feel so good. Hey, Beetlejuice poster. Georgie heads down to the dark cellar to retrieve the wax, and Bill applies it to the boat to make sure it'll float. Floating is very important in this movie, as you'll soon see. Outside, the boat rushes down the street in the roaring storm water, but the thing about storm water is it inevitably leads to the storm drain. That's where the boat goes. If only someone were down there to grab it for him, and wouldn't you know it, two glowing eyes tell Georgie there is someone down there. A stranger until he introduces himself.
Oh, well, I'm Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Pennywise, yes, meet Georgie. Georgie, meet Pennywise. Now we aren't strangers, are we?
I don't need to tell you the clown is creepy, you already know that, but I'll remind you what happens next. He offers the boat. Georgie just needs to reach down and grab it, which of course he'll do because if he comes home without it, Bill will kill him. He reaches his arm in and never gets it back, the arm or the boat. Pennywise bites it off, and as the screaming Georgie crawls in the rain, Pennywise reaches out and drags him under. Bill will never see his brother again, at least not alive. One of the biggest challenges of adapting a novel, especially when it's as sprawling and epic as It, you have to do everything more efficiently, like establishing the bond between Bill and Georgie. It's clearly a strong bond, but with enough imperfections, it doesn't feel overly forced or sentimental. Like Bill gently ribbing Georgie, calling him a wuss when he worries about going out in the rain. And there's Bill's callousness when Georgie is afraid to go down to the cellar alone to get the wax. The clearly loving relationship, along with those imperfections which make it feel real, makes it all the more devastating when Georgie meets his fate. The fact that Bill encouraged him to go outside makes it even more so, because that breeds guilt. Also, Bill Skarsgård is great as the clown. June 1989. It's been almost a year since that clown took Bill's brother. I should say more about Skarsgård, right? To me, his performance stands out thanks to how inhuman it feels. His voice drips with menace in every line, and never for a second do I mistake him for human, though he's mimicking the shape of one. Something about the sing-song voice clashing against his rough and guttural tone.
Hiya, Georgie.
And the look, the oversized forehead, the deliberately out-of-date costume that would better fit a few centuries ago, it adds further to the sense that he's something ancient. The washed-out colors do the same, like he stepped out of an old photograph. And finally, Skarsgård's physicality, starting with his face. Director Andy Muschietti planned on adding the unnatural eye movements in post, but Skarsgård assured he can do it himself, and he does. The strange smile is his too. He even demonstrates demonstrated it on Conan, how he can point his lip down in a strange way. The drooling helps too. Like for a moment he forgets he's supposed to be luring a child and just gets lost in the hunger. June 1989. It's been almost a year since that clown took Bill's brother. But Pennywise is not done with Bill Denbrough or the town, not by a long shot. In fact, Derry is on high alert. A girl, Betty Ripsum, went missing just a few weeks ago. Now there's a 7 p.m. curfew. But as the town loses a resident, it also gains one. Ben Hanscom. He is the new kid, which is what most people call him, the new kid. At least he gets one signature in his yearbook. Beverly Marsh. Maybe she relates to him. He's a target for bullies, and so is she. In fact, Greta and her goons just today filled a bathroom trash bag with water and dumped it over her head. Something that apparently actually happened to Andy Muschietti when he was a kid. Guys would rather spend $35 million to make a killer clown movie than just go to therapy. By this point, you already see the movie's secret weapon, the bonds between these kids. Coming-of-age stories almost feel like a cheat code because most can relate to these childhood experiences. The awkward crush, bonding over shared bullies, riding your bikes around the neighborhood, trading insults with a smile, knowing it's all in good fun. Wait, it was all in good fun? I wish someone told me that before I cut all my friends out of my life, except one who happens to be a clown. Possibly evil. Now, coming-of-age stories only almost feel like a cheat code because they come with difficulties. They can easily stray into overly sentimental and cheesy territory, and finding talented actors in the right age range can be challenging, but the cast here is great. The kids spent a lot of time together behind the scenes and developed a real chemistry too that definitely comes through on screen. The bonds feel real, and so do the people, because they each have unique personalities and personal struggles. For Bill, there's of course Georgie, and he has a stutter to deal with. Bev has a terrible home life with an abusive father. We also meet Mike Hanlon, a homeschooled kid. He's supposed to slaughter sheep, but can't get himself to pull the trigger. The struggles make them relatable, and watching them be kind and positive despite those struggles makes them likable. That's also thanks in large part to humor, another cheat code that endears an audience to characters, but again, almost a cheat, because it's easy to go too far, and not everyone is a comedian, so it's easy for the jokes to fall flat. But Richie especially is funny, and a good example of how the characters are well-rounded, with flaws. Richie is always ready with a joke, even when it's not appropriate, like when they're discussing the missing girl.
You think they'll actually find her?
Sure. In a ditch, all decomposed, covered in worms and maggots, smelling like Eddie's mom's underwear. Shut up.
She's not dead, she's missing.
Richie's mouth works so fast, he doesn't realize he's also implied Bill's brother Georgie is likely dead too. Humor endears us to the characters, their flaws make them real, and so do the details. Things like Ben and Beverly's bonding over New Kids on the Block. One odd detail you might notice is Bill's Schwinn bike, the kind you'd see in the 50s. That's a relic from the book, which took place in the 50s for the kids scenes and 80s for the adult scenes. The miniseries in 1990 shifted the timeline 10 years, setting it in 1990 and 1960, and now this version does the same, shifting to 2016 for Chapter 2 and 89 for this part. But Muschietti decided to retain the same 50s bike, just because it's so iconic in the book and so important to Bill. Though one major change he made to Bill is his core motivation. In the book, Georgie's body was found dead. In the movie, he's dragged into the sewer, and Bill has deluded himself into the idea he might still be alive. So in the book, he's motivated by something more like revenge, versus the movie where he's obsessively hoping to find Georgie alive. The first one to see it is Mike Hanlon. It happens when, hey, Batman! It happens when he goes around back at Quality Meats to drop off supplies. The chain rattles. Something bangs on the other side of the door, like something is trying to get out. No, not something. A person. No, people burning alive, screaming, calling out his name. The door opens, and they're gone. In their place, a clown with glowing eyes. The nightmare is interrupted by some corporeal monsters. Henry Bowers and his goons. Bullies. They tell Mike again to stay out of town, and they take off. In the book, it took on many forms based on whatever the kids were scared of. Naturally, that included villains from horror movies, like the creature from the Black Lagoon, the werewolf from I Was a Teenage Werewolf, Boris Karloff's The Mummy, Frankenstein's monster from I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, of course Dracula, and even Jaws. Well, I guess that's like saying he appeared as Jurassic Park, because the shark's name isn't Jaws. Alright, he appeared as the shark from Jaws, or Bruce as he was called behind the scenes. But for the movie, Muschietti wanted the chosen forms to be more personal to the characters, like the burning people. We'll later learn it's from a tragic memory of Mike's parents. Probably the right choice, since again, a movie has much less time to work with. Every scene and every scare has to hit with as much impact as possible, and if you can tie in character development, that only helps with efficiency. Also, as awesome as it would have been, it might have been distracting for this movie to double as the first Universal Monsters crossover in decades. Well, actually the first Universal Monsters crossover in 3 months. I forgot The Mummy with Tom Cruise was out the same year, and now I'd like to go back to forgetting. Next up is Stanley's turn. He's already having a rough day. He's behind on practice for his upcoming bar mitzvah. No pressure, he's only the son of the rabbi. But you know what's worse than trying to learn your prayers? I know from experience, nothing. But a close second, a monster clown who can manifest as your worst nightmares. Stanley heads to his father's office to return the Torah. He averts his gaze from a creepy painting of a strange flute player with an elongated neck and head, along with empty eyes. She's named Judith in the end credits. Wait! Why do you need an actor to play a painting? Huh, what was that? Oh, the painting fell off the wall. Happens all the time. Doesn't mean anything. Stanley puts the painting back on the wall, except Judith isn't in the painting anymore. Suddenly, the canvas is empty. Happens all the time. Must be one of those self-erasing paintings. Did you just hear something? The flute. Oh my God! Stanley sees her standing there, creepy smile, and he runs. Muschietti based this painting on his own childhood fear of an actual painting he grew up with. In his house, they had a print of a painting by Amedeo Modigliani, who tended to draw humans in this strange way, and it freaked out little Andy Muschietti. It must have left quite an impression, because you can clearly see a similar influence in his feature directorial debut, Mama. Pulling from his own childhood fears and experiences likely goes some way in explaining the beating heart of this movie. Not just the sentimentality and nostalgia, but also the sheer empathy he has for these characters. Little moments like this shot, where Stanley is behind bars and his father is above him, like he's in jail, overlooked by the warden. Every kid has their struggle, and the movie harvests all the emotion it can from them. Though it is a double-edged sword, painting this mood of nostalgia, sentimentality, and children coming together to overcome personal and shared struggles, it doesn't exactly put you in the mood to be scared. Even though people are dying in the movie, including children, these warm, gooey feelings add a degree of safety for the viewer. It doesn't make the movie worse, but a little less frightening. On that note, horror can be really effective when it unfolds slowly and allows room for realization. Like Stanley picking up the painting and we see it's empty. That allows us to experience the oh crap moment of, I think I know where this is going. The sudden notes of the flute confirm it, I'm dreading it, and then oh my God! Until she smiles. Yeah, one of the complaints you often hear about this movie is that when it leans on CGI, it just isn't as scary. The monsters feel less present as a tangible danger. Burning ghosts, a living painting? Could things get any worse? At least today was the last day of school. Now, summer vacation, baby. How should the boys kick things off? Bill insists he and his friends, the losers they call themselves, head to the Barrens. He's been studying the sewer system by looking at a map he took from his dad. His dad works for Derry's hydroelectric company. Based on the map, Bill believes the Barrens are where Georgie would have ended up. The Barrens are an underdeveloped stretch of land near a sewer outlet. I've always loved that name, the Barrens. Another nostalgic aspect of childhood that Stephen King captured, how kids have their own mythical version of the town, invisible to the adults. To the grown-ups, the Barrens are land not even worth thinking about. To the kids, They're the Barrens. There are probably stories and legends about things that have happened there. It reminds me of hanging out in the woods by my friend's house as kids. Now I'd probably look at it and be like, it's just a bunch of leaves and sticks. But back then, it was a place we went for adventure. We were really popular back then. At the Derry Public Library, Ben writes a note for Bev Marsh. Your hair is winter fire, January embers. My heart burns there too. He signs it, Secret Admirer. Holy crap, what is with the librarian back there, just creepily staring at him? Apparently that was improvised on set, and to me, that's creepier than the smiling flute lady. It's real. It takes you a second to notice it, and it doesn't push the movie into action-adventure mode with a character running from a CGI monster. It also ties into the idea that adults in Derry are an extension of the town's evil. The way Muschietti describes it on the commentary track is that this story is, in part, about the magic of childhood and what you leave behind when you stop being a child. All that world of magic and belief just dies with it. So what Stephen King does is antagonize everything that comes after and folds it in as enemies. After that, the librarian hands him a book he was looking for, A History of Old Derry. He reads about the Easter explosion at Derry Iron Works in 1908, the one that killed 102 people, including 88 children. One page shows a particularly gruesome discovery, a child's decapitated head that landed on a tree branch. Ben tries to quickly turn the page, but the next page only zooms in closer, the next page even closer and closer, until every gruesome detail is visible to him and unavoidable. He quickly shuts the book. Then something draws his attention. A red balloon floating unnaturally across the room. Ben follows it. Kids don't follow balloons. Didn't think I'd have to tell you that, but it's rule number 2. 1 is don't take candy from strangers, and 2 is don't follow haunted balloons. My mom always told me that. In the back room, he finds a smoldering Easter egg, an impossible 81-year-old souvenir. He follows it to another and another, leading him downstairs. The lights flash, giggling children, a burning headless kid chasing him, Pennywise chasing him.
Egg boy!
And he bumps into the librarian. Is anything scary going to happen or what? As always, Muschietti does a great job drawing out the scares. The guy is walking funny, but is partly obscured, so it takes you a second to realize he doesn't have a head. I also love how it ties into a real childhood experience. As much as adults try to shield kids from horrible things in the world, some of it inevitably seeps out. Could be on the news or in a book, and it can be pretty traumatizing. Outside, Henry Bowers and his goons get a hold of Ben. Bowers hits him in the face. That's bad enough, but then the knife comes out. He starts carving his name onto his belly. Ben kicks him, which sends himself flying off the bridge. They chase him. Bowers loses his knife. While he looks for it, a couple of his buddies continue their chase all the way into the Barrens. That got violent fast, right to face punching and stomach carving. Also, more of the adult evil in the town. In this case, they drive by in a car and definitely see what's happening, but do not stop to help. At the Barrens, Bill, Eddie, Richie, and Stanley search the sewer water. It doesn't take long for them to find something. Betty Ripsom's shoe. While they debate continuing on or retreating, Ben shows up. By now, he's put enough distance between him and the bullies, but they haven't given up. One of Bauer's cronies, Patrick, is still looking for him, but a sound draws him into a sewer tunnel where he finds a horde of dead people, a balloon, and a clown. He quickly joins the ranks of the dead. Don't feel too bad about this. Next to Pennywise, Patrick might be the most evil character in the story. It isn't explored in the movie, but in the book, we get his backstory, and it's horrible. Let me just read one part for you. He was a sociopath, and perhaps by that hot July in 1958, he had become a full-fledged psychopath. He could not remember a time when he had believed that other people, any other living creatures for that matter, were real. He believed himself to be an actual creature, probably the only one in the universe, but was by no means convinced that his actuality made him real. He had no sense of hurting exactly, and no real sense of being hurt. Further on, Stephen King drops this little nugget. Certainly none of Patrick's teachers, or his parents for that matter, suspected that when he was 5, Patrick had murdered his baby brother Avery. Why? 1. Avery was changing the rules, crying at night, waking him up, altering his schedule. 2. Patrick was starting to suspect Avery might be real. And 3. If Avery was real, he was afraid that meant his parents might get rid of Patrick in favor of Avery. As for Ben, his new friends bring him to the back of Quality Meats, where he can rest while they run to a pharmacy for some medical supplies. Only problem is stuff costs money, and last time I checked, medical supplies are stuff. Good thing Bev is there, and she teaches them a thing or two about shoplifting. Well, specifically one thing: how to do it. And it's another spotlight on the horrible adults of Derry, because Beverly helps them steal by distracting the pharmacist, by flirting with him, and he flirts back, and it's creepy. But there is a nice moment afterward.
You sure they got the right stuff to fix you up?
A subtle reference to the New Kids on the Block song, You Got It, The Right Stuff. A nice little nod to Ben. Also, clown on the mural right there. Outside, when Bill sees Beverly walking toward them, it's love at first sight. Technically, second sight. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it, though. Before she leaves, Bill invites her to join them at the quarry tomorrow. When she returns home, if you're paying attention, you hear some weird stuff on TV.
The sewer is a fun place to play with all of your friends.
And this.
When you're with your friends in the sewers, you can be as silly as a clown. That's right, hit the bird of the day.
That's another tool in the horror toolbox, tipping the audience to the danger before the characters themselves. It's kind of like when you see a ghost or monster in the background before the characters notice, but this is a fun, audible twist on the idea. Beverly's father is there to greet her, and their interaction tells you everything you need to know about the abusive, predatory hold he has over her, the way he touches her hair. In defiance of that, she gives herself an impromptu haircut. The next day, the boys hang out at the quarry, and wouldn't you know it, she decided to come. This is one of the most effective scenes. It's so nostalgic and sentimental, just kids having a good time in the summer. It's punctuated with the sort of joyful music you don't expect in a horror movie, and it's all the more effective because you know the kids are all going through a rough time, and you know it's only going to get worse. So it's not just kids having fun, it becomes a meaningful respite. Even the little moments, like glances between Bill and Bev, this is also a great example where you see the real chemistry between the child actors. While playing in the water, you also hear one of them say they found a turtle. There are a few turtle Easter eggs in the movie, as a reference to the cosmic sea turtle who created the universe. Not on purpose exactly, he vomited it out due to a stomachache. While they hang out, Ben tells them about Derry. Oh, you want to hear about the turtle? Well, the second movie goes a tiny bit into the origins of Pennywise, or It. The book goes much deeper, to the point where it gets into really cosmic sci-fi territory, which honestly I loved. And apparently the Dark Tower series, which connects a lot of Stephen King's works, expands on it even more. The TLDR, the turtle, which the Dark Tower series tells us is named Maturin, and It are powerful cosmic entities. Maturin is like a benevolent god who doesn't get overly involved, but does advise Bill and encourage him in the battle against It. If you read the book, there are actually portions essentially written from the perspective of It, the entity which takes the form of Pennywise. Here's a small excerpt just to give you an idea. Before the universe, there had been only two things. One was itself, and the other was the turtle. The turtle was a stupid old thing that never came out of its shell. It thought that maybe the turtle was dead, had been dead for the last billion years or so. Even if it wasn't, it was still a stupid old thing. And even if the turtle had vomited the universe out whole, that didn't change the fact of its stupidity. Geez, tell us how you really feel, It. So at the quarry, Ben tells the others about Derry. As the new kid in town, he got curious about the history, and what he found was disturbing. People die or disappear here at 6 times the national average, particularly kids. Back at his house, he shows them more, including the town charter signed by 91 people, who later that winter all disappeared without a trace. Clown! In a drawing of the signing. The only clue as to what happened to those people? A trail of bloody clothes leading to a well house. When it's time for everyone to go home, it's Eddie's turn. On the walk, he drops his pills. Good thing the man from the decrepit old house is there to help him pick them up. The man with a clearly very advanced case of leprosy. It gives chase until it's replaced by it, the clown.
Come join the clown, mates. You'll float down there. We'll float down there. Yes, we do.
I don't know why Pennywise thinks that's such a selling point. He always tells kids, you know, we all float down here, as if he expects us to be like, seriously? Sign me up. If he wants to lure children, he should stick with the classics. Offer candy. Everyone likes candy. Or how about parfaits?
You know what else everybody like? Parfaits. Have you ever met a person you say, hey, let's get some parfaits? They say, hell no, I don't like no parfaits. Parfaits are delicious.
No! You dense irritate!
Back at her house, Bev finds a postcard in her bag, one left by a secret admirer about her hair, Winter Fire. Only problem is that she's reading that poem in the bathroom, where there's a sink with a drain, which, like most drains, leads to the sewage system. Again with the floating, but yes, those are the voices of the dead calling to her. She gets curious and unspools an entire roll of measuring tape down the drain. It pulls up blood and hair. That hair grabs her and holds her as gallons of blood erupt from the drain. All the screaming attracts her father's attention, but when he comes, he doesn't see anything.
What blood?
Sophia Lilly's acting here is phenomenal. The way she just can't understand why her father doesn't see anything. Her words barely come out, nothing more than a whisper. That night, Bill gets a turn. The lights turn on in Georgie's room. He walks in. Turtle! Lego turtle! A shadow and footsteps draw him to the basement, to Georgie. Georgie tells Bill how his boat floated off.
But Bill, if you'll come with me, you'll float too.
I appreciate the offer, but I'm good. I don't know why you think I'm like a big floating guy. I'm not that into floating. You can stop asking. It's honestly getting a little weird.
You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
Yeah, that's not helping. Like the others, the haunting starts as one thing before inevitably leading to the clown. The next day, Bev needs to know if she's crazy. She shows the boys her bathroom, and sure enough, they do also see the blood, and they help her clean it up. It's fascinating that they have to actually clean the imaginary blood. I mean, I get that it's not exactly imaginary, it's more selectively real, but somehow that's easier to accept in the context of, this thing can hurt you if you believe in it. In the context of a bunch of fluid that's persistent, it stays there for hours, and when you clean it, it reacts just like actual blood. It's like Pennywise has created a small physics simulation in the bathroom with stellar fluid mechanics. Thematically, it ties into that idea. There's a whole world children have access to that many adults grow out of, the world of imagination, usually a beautiful thing we get to experience most fully in our adolescence, which emphasizes how terrible this malevolent being It really is, exploiting that beautiful thing for his own horrific ends. Also, you gotta feel for Ben. The moment when he watches Bill and Bev hitting it off, the jealousy, the heartbreak, and if you were a chubby kid like me growing up, you've made this face more times than you can count. At the same time, the awkward moment when Bev realizes it wasn't Bill who wrote the poem, that's all important because liking the characters and appreciating the chemistry between them is one thing, but what keeps you engaged is when it's dynamic. They welcome new friends like Ben and Bev. Soon they'll meet Mike too. They grow closer. There's this jealousy. Those tensions and changes are what make it all engaging. Afterward, it's time for a talk. Bev experienced the blood from her sink. Well, she isn't the only one who saw something. Bill tells them about Georgie in the basement. The clown, Eddie, Ben, and Stanley, they've all seen it too. As for Richie...
Wait, can only virgins see this stuff? Is that why I'm not seeing this yet?
The conversation is interrupted when they hear Bowers and his goons picking on Mike. Maybe worse than that is what Mike sees in the tall grass. Pennywise snacking on a severed arm. Before Bowers can hurt the kid too bad, the losers step in. Bev throws a stone, and the others follow suit. The arm in Pennywise's mouth, by the way, belongs to another missing kid, Eddie Corcoran. Soon they'll see a missing person poster for him and comment how they found a part of his arm chewed up near the standpipe. Lovely. Also, the Rock War. Nothing better than kids standing up for each other, banding together against bullies, just like they banded together earlier to help Beverly clean her bathroom. Muschietti is so good at warming the heart with this classic trope, the outcasts coming together. But it is that double-edged sword. My heart is so warmed that I don't get all that scared watching this movie. It puts that much more pressure on each scare to be as effective as possible, which makes the CGI monsters stand out even more. For the story, that rock fight is important too, because it helps the kids realize how powerful they are when they fight as a group. When they spot Eddie's missing person flyer, they wonder if it'll ever end. And Ben says that it will, at least for a little while. Going over his dairy research, he sees that the tragedies happen every 27 years. And by the way, how cool is it that this movie came out 27 years after the miniseries adaptation with Tim Curry? And they didn't back into that math. The 27-year cycle is true to the book. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the next adaptation in 2044. Should be another Simpsons movie out then too. They start piecing things together. This entity seems to feed every 27 years, and it must be a shapeshifter, able to take the form of whatever scares you most. Mike tells them what he saw. It was something Pennywise plucked from a traumatic memory of how Mike lost his parents. The house burned down. They were trapped in the room next to him. They were pushing and pounding at the door to try and get to him, but it was too hot. The firefighters found them with the skin on their hands melted to the bone. They go to Bill's house where he reveals his sewer map and shows that it connects all the incidents. Following the sewers, they intersect at the well house, located at the decrepit place where Eddie met his bandaged friend, the one with leprosy.
That's where it lives.
Soon, the projector starts flipping slides on its own to a picture of Bill, Georgie, and their parents. But with each flip, the picture changes, turning Mom into Pennywise, who comes out of the picture and he's huge, until they open the garage to let in light. Then suddenly, he's gone. I remember the first time I watched this movie in theaters, this is one of the few scenes that got to me. Most of the scares are well crafted, but the less cartoonish they get, the more effective they are. In this scene, a lot of the creepiness is physical, the projector changing slides on its own, Pennywise staring at them from behind the screen while they're in this cramped, dark place. Yes, they're together, but can hardly see each other, and the only source of light is the projector, which has now become a source for something awful, the clown. When he pops out, giant-sized, of course digital effects are in use, but not to create a monster, just to resize one, and Skarsgård's performance is fully visible when he's crawling around like the kids are in a cramped, dark cage with him. So intense. What to do now? For Bill, there's only one option. Go to Neibolt Street. It's home, where Georgie is. The others are scared, they hesitate, but Bill only has that one option. So he goes. Of course, worried for him, the others follow. Richie and Eddie go into the house with him, while the others keep watch. The first treat waiting for them is a missing person flyer with Richie's face on it. Someone calls for help from upstairs. Betty Ripsum, the missing girl. Eddie also sees his old, bandaged friend again before falling through the floor. Bill and Richie get stuck behind a door and separated. Alone, Richie is forced to confront his greatest fear, clowns. And that is bad luck. At least they're just dolls. Well, most of them. He runs back to Bill where they're haunted by a dead Eddie mattress. Downstairs, Eddie notices his arm bent unnaturally, and the creepiest rendition of Pennywise yet. Twisty Pennywise. Apparently, Skarsgård worked for months with contortionists to get this right. I'm lying. That's digital effects. Upstairs, acid blood, xenomorph style, forces Richie and Bill to pick a door. Not scary at all. Scary, or very scary. Not scary leads to Betty missing the lower half of her body. To be honest, I feel like that is kind of scary. And you know what? That really is the worst part about Pennywise. The hypocrisy. Bill remembers, this isn't real. They open the not scary door again, and this time, nothing, which distracts Pennywise before he can chomp on Eddie by extending his mouth out of his mouth. Xenomorph style, they run to Eddie and Pennywise runs at them until Bev puts a broken fence spike through his skull, which doesn't make him any prettier. He slashes Ben's belly with freshly grown claws. then makes his exit. Those claws, by the way, are a small reference to the werewolf form he takes in the book. Bill follows him to the basement, where the clown sinks down into a well. Bill runs back up, Richie snaps Eddie's arm back in place, and they head outside, where the group fractures. Eddie's mom bans him from hanging out with them anymore. Richie and Stanley are over clowns and monsters. They don't want to do it anymore. Bill has to accept that Georgie is gone. I love the set design of this house. Like, a house could not be more broken down unless it was a literal pile of wood. Also, it's important to notice what Pennywise does in the house. He's trying to separate them because being together makes them strong. It makes them less afraid. It also furthers the theme of taking the purest aspects of childhood and twisting them against the kids. Imagination and belief, yes, but also friendship. The unbreakable bonds that form between kids thrown into shared circumstances, going to the same school, living in the same town, in some cases dealing with the same traumas. Pennywise is determined to break those bonds, and by making these amazing things, friendship and imagination, the target of Pennywise's ire, Stephen King and Andy Muschietti highlight them as amazing things worth protecting. After Neibolt Street, the days pass in a daze. Stanley has his bar mitzvah, Mike holds the stun bolt gun pointed at a sheep's glabella and pulls the trigger, no longer hesitating, and Bowers is humiliated by his father in front of his goons. At the pharmacy, Eddie comes in to pick up his medication refill when the bored girl behind the counter tells him something funny. His pills are placebos. This is Greta, the same girl who bullied Bev in the bathroom at the start of the movie, and now she writes loser on Eddie's cast. What a lovely human being. Before long, the clown is back. First, he sends Henry Bowers a gift, that knife he lost. Henry walks into the house to find his dad asleep in front of the TV. Once again, listen close for more clown talk. Actually, you don't have to listen that close.
Me too. I just love watching things float. That's right. And you will too, Henry. Make it a wonderful day. Kill him. Kill him.
It's easy. Put the handle to his throat, press the release. In seconds, his father is dead in his chair.
Well done, Henry. Kill them all. Kill them all.
Pennywise smiles at Henry from the TV. Looks like he's found a new father figure, one a bit more encouraging. I do think the Henry character is frustratingly underdeveloped and underutilized. He has a much larger role in the book, and of course you can't translate everything to the screen. But part of adapting is deciding what to leave behind, and I wonder if some of this should have been left out. You do need the school bullies, that is largely how the kids bond. The book delves further into the bullies' lives, but the movie doesn't necessarily need to do that too. And only doing it a little is more distracting than leaving it out entirely, because now it's so compressed, it feels clunky and ultimately hardly impacts the overall story. Now Beverly has problems with her dad too. He's locked the door to prevent her leaving. He grabs her aggressively and asks what she's been up to all summer with the boys in the woods. But this time is different. When he asks if she's still his girl, she says no. She pulls away. She kicks him where it hurts, his face too, for good measure. When he comes after her still and follows her to the bathroom, she hits him harder with the toilet top. Once he's on the ground bleeding, she sees it, Pennywise, and it grabs her. When Bill comes looking for her, he finds her dad there, bleeding, and a message on the wall in blood. You die if you try. One of Stephen King's notes when he saw the movie, by the way, is that it was unclear if she killed the dad or not. So they added some moaning sounds here to make it clear he is actually still alive. Now, if Pennywise wanted to separate the kids, he pulled about the dumbest trick he could, because as soon as the others know that one of them is missing, differences are put aside and the losers are reunited. My favorite part is Eddie confronting his mom about the pills. She doesn't want him to leave. He needs to stay home thanks to his sickness. What sickness? These pills, you know what they are. They're gazebos. His mistaking placebos for gazebos is a nice reminder that while the kids are dealing with grown-up things, they are anything but. They head to the house on Neibolt and then straight for the well downstairs. Beverly, meanwhile, is already down there in its lair. She sees a lot of floating things, including the bodies of those missing kids, and she sees the clown. After a demonic dance, he opens his mouth to show her the deadlights. That breaks her mind, puts her in a trance, and leaves her floating too. In the book, the deadlights are presented as essentially the stuff it is made out of, its core being. King expands on the nature of the deadlights in other books, but this is about the movie It, okay? It's not a Stephen King lore video, though that's not the worst idea. Stay tuned. For this final set piece, Muschietti wanted something haunted and fantastical, but still somewhat functional and grounded. What function all this floating stuff serves, I don't know, but for the actual look, Muschietti was inspired by the movie Brazil. The others head down the well, but the last one, Mike, is stopped by Henry, reduced to a henchman for Pennywise. They fight until Mike tackles him down the well, and Henry falls a long way. More of my disappointment in the Henry arc. Like, was it really necessary for Pennywise to recruit him just to be a minor nuisance in the finale for like 2 minutes? At the bottom of the well, Pennywise plays his usual tricks, taunting, haunting, and separating the group. While Bill chases a ghost, Georgie, the others pull Beverly down to the ground, but she's unresponsive. Ben kisses her. No way that'll work. Actually, wow, it worked. That's when she realizes the author of the poem, January Embers. Great, but where the hell's Bill? He's talking to a one-armed ghost, still holding on to that boat. The others find him. Like always, Bill cannot accept his brother is dead. Now he's talking to this thing like it's really Georgie. That's how it looks anyway. But the truth is that deep down, Bill knows.
I love you too. But you're not Georgie.
I don't know about you, but at no point did I actually believe this was Georgie. But Muschietti was at least hoping to trick some of the audience. That's why this particular iteration of Georgie was meant to look more realistic, like how he would look if he had survived all this time. He has a stump where his arm used to be, he's starving, etc. And there's a long pause after Bill shoots him, so maybe you're thinking, oh god, did he just kill his brother? It's a good idea in theory, and sets up the nice fake out where you realize Bill is not falling for it after all. But after all the death wrought by Pennywise, I just don't think there's any way to sell the idea that Georgie might still be alive. Georgie's body falls, convulses, and reverts to the form of Pennywise, the dancing clown. Mike is the one who noticed what just happened. That gun wasn't loaded, yet somehow it worked. Bill goes to shoot it again. Mike shouts that it isn't loaded. No, why'd you do that? I was impressed. You figured out the placebo angle. If you believe it, it works. So yeah, when Bill pulls the trigger this time, it doesn't. Thanks, Mike. Gun or not, they gang up on the clown with every weapon they have. Finally, Pennywise grabs Bill and offers a bargain. Let me take him, only him. I'll go back to my long rest while you're all free to go. Bill tells them to take the deal, and it seems like Richie is going to go for it.
You punched me in the face? You made me walk through shitty water? You brought me to a fucking crackhead house? And now? I'm gonna have to kill this fucking clown.
The best part of the movie. So much emotion packed into that line. On a visceral level, it's hilarious. At the same time, triumphant. Spitting in the clown's face, telling him he's gonna lose. And at the same time, a testament to friendship. Recognizing that it's about sharing the good times but also the bad, and sometimes suffering a little for your friends. Yeah, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. He swings at him with his bat, the others follow suit, beating the clown while he conjures the various forms that worked before. Except Judith or the burning people aren't as scary when the kids aren't alone. Beverly is the one who lands the killing blow. The clown wears her father's face, and she puts a spike down its throat. It spits it out before pathetically crawling away. Bill's the one who figures it out. The thing needs fear. That's what it feeds on. That's why it didn't kill Bev. She wasn't scared. And neither are the rest of them.
Now you're the one who's afraid. Because you're gonna starve.
Pennywise jumps into the drain and holds on for a moment, long enough for the kids to see pieces of his head crumbling away, and to hear him whisper, "Fear," before letting go, falling deep into the dark. Why did he say the word fear out loud like that? Fear. Like he's run out of ways to scare the kids, so he just tried one last time. What if I just say it? Fear. Huh? Did it work? Did what work? Are you scared? Am I scared because you said the word fear? Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was worth a shot. Also, some things are just too cartoonish to be scary. Like when its head turns into Bev's dad's head, a normal guy's head on a big clown body. But I guess that's part of the idea. They aren't scared anymore, and it doesn't know what to do. It's like running out of bullets, so you throw your gun at the bad guy. Ineffective, but worth a shot. With Pennywise gone, the body of the kids float down, and Bill finds Georgie's old raincoat, the one that belonged to the real Georgie. It's a pretty effective moment, watching him finally cry, and for the first time truly grieve Georgie's death, accepting that he's really gone. Cut to September. Bev tells the others about something she saw while under Pennywise's spell in the deadlights. They were all grown up in the cistern together again, and they all felt scared. That's when Bill stands up and asks them to swear, if it isn't dead, if it ever comes back, they'll come back too. And they all swear on it in blood. The cuts on the palms of their hands, those scars will be a reminder. Everyone returns home except Bill and Bev, who stay behind a little longer. She leaves for Portland in the morning. Before she goes, though, unfinished business. Bill runs over for a kiss. Thus ends it. Chapter 1? What the hell? There's another one of these? In the meantime, Chapter 1 ends on a note that rings so true. It's the end of the summer, and the kids walk away like their childhood is over. The sad thing is that in real life, yes, many friendships last many years, but there are also those friendships that stay relegated to childhood. You underestimate the importance of the shared experiences that draw you together, because that is a big part of the friendship formula. Circumstance. We're in the same school. We're dealing with the same ancient evil. Once school is out, camp is over, or you move towns, some of those friendships come to an end permanently. Of course, for them, they've also been forced to grow up very fast. So much of what makes childhood magical, that belief and imagination, it's all been turned sour, and now they're going to turn away from it. I do also have to say, I like that it doesn't say, "to be continued." Instead, simply adding the label Chapter 1 is enough to tell you the story isn't over, but somehow it feels classier, less like a tease of more to come, and more a statement of fact. We've just told you Part 1. As for Chapter 2, that is a story for another day, which is probably tomorrow. And as for the prequel series on HBO, It, Welcome to Derry, that is also a story for another day, but definitely not tomorrow. Unless you're watching this video in the future, and I've already done a video on that series, in which case, that day might even be today if the video is already out. Month of Terror continues tomorrow with It, Chapter 2.